Happy Thursday, everyone. My name is Kalani, and I am the Chief Operations Officer here at Pre-iShare. And Christian's going to dive into what Pre-iShare is a little bit more. So I'll let him kind of do the intro on Pre-iShare. But we are going to be talking about the secret to liquidity for passive real estate investors. And we are super excited about this webinar tonight because we have been working on this listing hub for 20 to 22 months. For some of us, it's 22 months, and it's been a long time in the making and a long time in the making for the industry, as it's a solution that has not been brought to market yet. So we are very excited to bring this to market and educate all of you tonight that there is an option to get liquidity from passive real estate interests. So a little bit of housekeeping real quick, just short and sweet, is that there's a chat function at the bottom where you can chat, you can say hello. In fact, would love for you to tell us where you're watching this from and how you heard about Pre-iShare. And then there's also a Q&A. In the Q&A, you can type questions, and then toward the end of the presentation, we'll open it up to answer any of your questions. We also have some questions that were filled out as part of the registration process, so we'll be answering those too. And just to get right into it, I'm going to pass the baton over to Christian here in just a minute. Christian is our VP of Investor Relations, and he is also the Fundication Show host. So if you watched any of our episodes that were filmed at the studio, Christian hosts those, and you'll see him as on the face of a lot of our content. So Christian also has 18 years of real estate investing experience, transacting different asset types. So he has done single family, multifamily, commercial, and land. And so Christian, super excited to hand this over to you and for you to tell our audience what the secret is to liquidity for passive real estate investors.
Well, Kalani, thank you so much. I kind of feel like the small guy with everybody around me and all of your experience. So grateful to be here to share with folks. And again, as Kalani said, we're going to answer questions at the end. I specifically left a section for that, and that's primarily what this is for. So if you came with questions, that's awesome. You can type them in now so that they're at the top of the queue, or you can type them in at that time if they come up as we go along. I'm going to cover some of the main questions that we come across already. Again, we are over 20 months in research and development of this entire process, and this comes from Michael Anderson, our CEO, and his brother Kent, who is our fund manager. Their many years of experience and what they didn't like, so to speak, about the syndication industry, or the things that they wished they could change over the years. So let me switch over to my presentation real quick, and then we'll jump right into this. All right. Give me a nod if you guys can see my screen. Just want to make sure that we're coming through. All right, looking good. So again, the secret to liquidity for passive real estate investors. Here's something that Mike has raised his hand, and he was the first one to admit that there was a big lie out there. And I'm jumping ahead a little bit, so let me just jump back to the presentation here. Who is this for? This presentation is for any investor who owns a passive interest in a current real estate syndication and wants to sell their interest. So you may otherwise know yourself as a limited partner that is invested in a commercial real estate asset, a passive investor. What we found is oftentimes the people that this is for don't really call themselves anything. They're just somebody who is maybe a professional or somebody that had money that they wanted to invest, and they invested with somebody on a passive basis because they didn't want to go out there and transact the deal themselves. This also could be for somebody who does have a GP interest or a sponsor of a real estate transaction that has excess shares that they want and are able to sell based on their original operating agreements. So those are kind of who we're talking to right now. And the agenda I'm going to run through is, first of all, just a little bit of an introduction, which we've covered already, and then the big lie. And that's what I tried to jump into right there at the beginning, was the big lie. We're going to talk about the real issue and what's going on, and aligning the interests of the passive investor with the deal sponsor or the real estate syndicator. We're going to talk about Pre-iShare and who we are. We're going to talk about the fact that we're waking up the industry and a little bit of market intelligence onto what we've found over these last 20 months in building this business and talking to many of some of the biggest independent deal sponsors that are out there. We're going to talk about becoming the bridge with the listing hub. And the listing hub is kind of the core component that we want to introduce you guys today. And we're going to give you a little bit of an offer at the end, a free offer, by the way, for you to take advantage of that and use that in your favor. So it's your turn, and then we're going to bring in the experts, and I'm going to introduce our CEO, our fund manager, and our chief technology officer so that they can answer any of the questions that you have. So I'm reiterating, if you have questions, and that's why you came here in the first place, be patient. We'll get there. All right. So, can you relate to wanting to sell an investment that you have, but not necessarily knowing how to do it? Or being able to go to your sponsor and having them tell you, you know what, you signed up for a 5-year deal or you signed up for a 10-year deal. It doesn't matter what the reason is. Could be a medical challenge, could be college tuition, could be that new car that you want. There's lots of reasons that you may want out of a deal, but what we found is oftentimes limited partners or passive investors invested thinking that they were ready to go for the long ride, and then something came up. And whether that was an immediate situation or if it's something they just really wanted, they would love to have access and have liquidity on those investments. So we built a solution, which is the pre-iShare listing hub. And we're going to get to that towards the end, but this would be your answer to that liquidity you've been looking for. So the big lie, and again, I wanted to kind of throw Mike out there as somebody who first raised his hand and said, you know what? As I looked back, I realized that I had been lying to my passive investors, not because he was not telling the truth, but really it just came down to he shared that their investment was not liquid. And the other thing that is often told to investors when they're looking at a real estate syndication is that they're investing in real estate. The truth is, you're not buying real estate when you invest in real estate syndication. You are buying shares in a company that is buying real estate. And so those shares can be bought and sold, but are limited to the rules in the offering documents. And this is where people really get tied up. And the truth is, the real issue is, though, this wasn't malicious intent. Again, this wasn't that they went out there to deceive anybody. It was more so that if you look at most syndicators, they want to set proper expectation with their passive investors. They don't want to go tell you that you can get in and out of a deal when they know once they invest it, it's unlikely that they're going to have liquid capital to cash anybody out early when that money does go into a piece of real estate. And oftentimes, even the syndicators are at the whims of the market conditions at that time in what they're able to do. And so they want to go out there, they want to run a proper transaction, and they want to give proper expectations. Also, most syndicators have to scale in order to make a living. A lot of people think, well, somebody went out there and they're buying a 200-unit apartment complex, so they must be wealthy. What we found is oftentimes when somebody is getting started in real estate syndications, they're still working on bridging the gap. And the only way to get themselves to real financial freedom and security is usually to scale that business large enough that they can hire out employees and they can actually start reaping the rewards and the freedoms that come with real estate investing. But in the beginning, I can tell you, sponsoring a real estate transaction takes a whole lot of work. Also, most syndicators want to know and choose who's in the deal. They kind of want to know who they're doing business with. They don't want any knucklehead, that can put money into a deal coming in and doing business with them and then causing all kinds of problems later on. And so they want to have a little bit more control in who they're doing business with. Also, they don't want to have to backfill an operating transaction when they're focused on the future. As I mentioned, if they're out there scaling and they bought their first investment, they fill that investment, they are now into the operation side of things and they're turning that property around. Most likely, as they're doing that, they're out there searching for that next deal, that next property. And they're out there raising money so that they can scale their business. And if they have to go take somebody out of a previous deal, that limits their ability to focus on the current deal. Okay. So until now, there has not been somebody in the middle ground that could align the interests of the real estate syndicator and their passive investor. And this is where pre-iShare comes along. So Mike, when he retired from his last company, he sold it to a partner. He retired for a matter of about a few days and realized that retirement life was not necessarily where he wanted to be. Real estate is in his blood, and so he continued to help make other people wealthy in real estate syndications, and sat down with a bunch of friends and realized there were some things they didn't particularly like about the business. And especially when Mike sold his last company and he went from being a GP interest holder in a whole bunch of real estate to becoming an LP interest holder in a whole bunch of real estate, he realized how limited he was to reposition his own portfolio at his whim and for the needs that he had in his current life. And so he gathered a whole group of us together that were also passionate about changing the real estate industry, and we created Free iShare. Now, with Free iShare, collectively as a group, we have over 7.3 billion in real estate transactions, over $1 billion in experience of assets under management, 25 years just in legal and securities alone with our partner Brad, and over 100 collective years in real estate investing experience. In fact, it's well over 100 years if you count it up and collect it. So we are waking up the industry as we started to bring this to market, and we started to talk to people who had been in the industry for 30 years, 40 years, 50 years. These are some of the things that they were saying. They were talking about how much of a difference this would make to the industry if there was liquidity. And especially if they didn't have to be the ones to create that liquidity, that liquidity could come from the open market. We started hearing things like, you know what, we're going to be able to find more investors. We're going to help more people. We're going to allow people to be more flexible with their investing needs. On average, what we're hearing is about 7 out of 10 people that want to invest in a real estate transaction don't, simply because they can't tie up their money that long. And oftentimes it's because they don't know what the future holds. I mean, I don't know about you, but planning for next year is hard, let alone 5 years from now, right? And so to think through that of how many investors would love to be invested in real estate. In fact, I talk to people from all different industries, all different professions about where they would put their money if they could choose any industry. And time again, it's real estate. We all know that the value and the wealth of America and of the world is held in real estate. So what if there were more options for you to get in and still have the security of real estate, but also have the liquidity of any other investment out there? Why most people invest into the stock market or into all of these other traditional assets is simply the liquidity factor. And that's what we want to solve. So we came up with the Listing Hub. The Listing Hub is that bridge for buyers and sellers of real estate interests. And the great part about it is when we started breaking this down and talking to the market, we started realizing that many people would want to buy these fractional interests late stage because now they get to watch the deal a little bit. And so if you have somebody who it really just wants to get those high returns, they're probably going to go look at buying early in a deal where they're hoping and they're kind of taking the risk on that sponsor, but then they're going to sell as soon as they see that big upside because there's the compounding effect of short cycle investing. You buy into a transaction, you look for those equity multiples, you sell, and even if you sell at a discount from its current value, but you can reposition that money into another deal that has huge upside, there's just a lot that can be done there. But somebody who maybe they want the returns of real estate, but they want more security than betting on a deal that has so many variables, they can look at buying these things late stage. And they might be willing to pay more than what that person bought in at if they can see that the property's already been remodeled, they've already done their lease ups, they're starting to stabilize, and they're just waiting on that cash flow to continue for a point to until a point of time where there's either a refinance, which would be potentially a cash event, or a sale, and then they could take that money and they could reinvest again. So huge opportunities. There's a lot of strategic ways you can use the listing hub for selling your interests and for buying interests as well. And again, I think some of the smartest investors are going to utilize this, and they're going to continually trade those assets so they can get higher overall average returns. So how do you get started? Starts with a quick call with our team. And with that, we will help make sure that what you are listing is, in fact, a fractional share of a current real estate syndication that you have the ability to sell. Now, the interesting thing about this is you will need the sign off from the deal sponsor, but we, as a company, will help you bridge that conversation with your sponsor. And as a matter of fact, we already have a lot of sponsors signing on with us and saying, we want to offer this liquidity to all of our investors. And you may just have one of those that is the sponsor of your transaction. So then you're going to add that listing to the listing hub, and you're going to wait until you have an offer. You're going to look through those offers and make a decision. Now, these offers are coming from accredited investors. So if you're a deal sponsor on the line and you're saying, I don't want all kinds of yahoos just coming into my deal. Well, guess what? These are accredited investors. And so these are people who have the financial wherewithal to step into that deal, and they slot into the exact same spot. So think about this for a second. Whether you're an investor who sponsored a deal or a passive investor inside of a deal, somebody needs out. If they have that opportunity to get out, they're going to be happy, and they're more likely to invest with that sponsor in the future. Somebody else wants in. If that person wants into your deal right now, it's most likely they're going to want to continue to invest with you as a sponsor long term. So it's a great trade-off. It's a great scenario. And ultimately, one thing to clarify is iShare is not going to control any of those sales, right? We're not broker dealers. We're not stepping in the middle of your negotiation. You get the opportunity to negotiate and make a transaction in a true free market. The only thing that we're seeing that comes close to what we're doing right now is controlled markets by large institutions that are only allowing sales of transactions that have went through their portal. We don't care where you got into the deal in the first place. You can come and you can list those shares, and we will help bridge the conversation so that you can have a successful transaction. Now, I will say, on the back side of this, we also do have the pre-iShare fund. And the pre-iShare fund is designed to give instant liquidity for those of you that are selling your shares on the listing hub. So if you have one that is currently kicking off cash flow and fits our criteria, you might just get a cash offer before it even gets live on the listing hub. Just wanted to give you that key scenario. So it's your turn. For a limited time, we are offering you a free listing, meaning you can come and you can find out what the market would be willing to pay for a share like yours. So whether you invested $50,000 into a deal, $500,000 into a deal, or more, you can take that and you can decide, what would you be willing to sell for right now? If somebody gave you cash for that investment, what would you be willing to sell for? And you can list it on our listing hub, and we're going to allow you to do that for free for a limited time. So this is the way that you're going to get that. You're going to go to pre-iShare.com/free listing. Pretty simple. pre-iShare.com/free listing. And that's going to connect you with Cece, who is our Chief Technology Officer. You guys get to go directly to the top on the tech side of our team and have Cece walk you through the listing process. So that's the basics of it. There's a whole lot that we could go into, but we wanted to leave lots of room for questions and answers. And I want to bring out the experts. So I mentioned our CEO, Michael Anderson, but I want to give him a little bit more so that you guys understand the background and why I feel small being in this group of folks. Mike is a guy who's been syndicating real estate for over 40 years. He's somebody who's done over 7 billion in real estate transactions and sold his last company when it had nearly $1 billion in assets under management. And when Mike was going through all those years in real estate, he reached out to his brother Kent. Kent was in institutional investments where he was managing billions of dollars for a very large firm. And Mike was able to convince him to come out of the securities world and into the world of private transactions in real estate. And Kent was responsible for managing, again, upwards of $1 billion with that company and analyzed many, many billions more. And then we have Cece. Cece is an educated tech guru. I wish I could tell you all of her background, but I'm not even smart enough to understand the tech side to give her the proper kudos. But just know she is our chief technology officer, and we had the opportunity to hire the best of the best, and Cece is who we chose. So that's the three experts, and I'm going to allow Kalani to take back over while I take a drink of water and take questions and answers. I will be here to answer questions as well, and also Kalani, who is our COO, our Chief Operations Officer, can probably field some of these questions as well.
Thanks, Christian. Great presentation. For everyone that's watching, I know it's a lot. I know that what we're doing has not been done before in the industry. So there are a lot of questions that we get as we've been, that we have gotten as we've been building out this listing hub, and even best tailoring it for the market and the needs of passive investors. And so we have several questions we're going to dive into, and I'll read some of them off. Hopefully I get to everyone's. If you have questions, feel free to put them in the Q&A section of Zoom, so that you have like a little chat feature, and then there's a Q&A feature. So I'll just read some off. So I'll just start at the top. So John says, who can use this platform? And so Kent, Cece, Mike, you're all welcome to answer this too.
Well, anybody can list on it. If you, part of the problem we've seen is that this is not just for accredited investors, but there is situations that you get into in life where, for example, I would like to pass on my real estate investments onto my heirs. And so I know that my probate attorney would like to use that service to liquidate my real estate assets so that my heirs get the benefit of it, not have to deal with holding the real estate assets if that's something that they didn't want to do. Divorces, there's all sorts of things that take place. So it's open for anybody that wants to list that ended up with a passive real estate investment or fractional interest in a property. But for those who want to buy, that's open to accredited investors only. So if you're a buyer of those assets, you need to be accredited prior to completing your transaction.
Right. Mike's the brainchild behind all of this. He compiled this entire team. Some of us 22 months ago, some of us 20 months ago. So Mike's been, he gave us the vision, and we've all executed it. So, and we're still executing it. All right. So next question from Dave. What is the maximum amount of interest in a deal that someone can sell? Maximum.
So I would come out on this one, and Kent and Mike can probably fill in the gaps. But it has to be a passive share. So obviously you can't come in here and sell more than 50% of any particular asset, because then it puts it into a scenario where that's no longer a passive share. Again, Kent and Mike, correct me if I'm wrong there, but the way to think about this is if you have a fractional ownership that is a passive share in a real estate syndication, then you can sell that.
And to avoid any kind of confusion, I would also add that you're selling an interest that you have. It's exclusive of anybody else that's already in the deal. It doesn't affect anybody else, in other words, that's in the deal. They're just replacing you if you sell your interest.
Hey, Christian, should we stop sharing screen and then we all show up a little bit bigger on the screen? Okay, so let's see. Jane says, "Can I sell equity in one of my rental properties?"
So this is this a property that they already own?
Says in one of my rental properties, so I'm assuming so.
Yeah, sounds like they're already the owner. The answer is that they can, but they would have to be a sponsor. So because they would be likely creating, and this is not my area of expertise. This would be something you would want to bring up with an appropriate real estate securities attorney. But if they're creating a fractional interest or a passive interest to somebody else, or somebody that has less voting rights than or less ownership rights, then they would need that would be a security more than likely, and they would need to just do their Reg D filings. And I would recommend if they're new to this that they do a 506C so that they can help accumulate and advertise for new investors. And if they do that, and if they follow those rules, then yes, absolutely, they can sell a fractional interest of that.
So the key is that it's a syndicated transaction. So you're not just going to sell equity out of a home or a rental property that if you just own it individually, unless you go through the entire process of syndicating, like Mike's saying. And so typically this is for deals that have already been syndicated.
All right, let's see. Dave asks, "Can I sell majority ownership in a transaction I no longer want to be involved in?"
Majority ownership of something, a majority of their ownership or they are majority owners. Either way, the answer is yes. But if they're the majority owner, I think Christian already answered that question in that they're probably, if they're a majority interest, then they're probably the managing partner. In that case, that's a, that's we don't deal with that. They would probably need to break that down a little bit further, maintain some ownership interest and sell fractional interests of that themselves. I would think that would be the best way to go. Now, neither one of those, uh, even the previous question or this question, if they want to reach out to myself or somebody on the team, Kent is also very knowledgeable on this. We can give them referrals to proper counsel. They can give them, the best advice on how to go about doing this. We know the absolutely the best in the industry. So
Yeah, I think the key is so if it's majority ownership in that they own in a deal, they can sell as much or all of that they want. If they own the deal, like the piece of property themselves and they're majority owner, I think that's going to be a little bit more tough because who's going to manage that real estate once they're gone? This is not designed for people to liquidate single investments, independent investments. It's more for those that are syndicated. So if it's a syndicated deal, and again, Mike is very accurate. If you want to turn it into a syndication and you want to put the proper management in place, then this could probably work for just about anybody.
And some of these questions, it depends. We'll need a little more information. So again, feel free to book a call with us at pre-ishare.com/free listing. And we can definitely dive a little bit deeper into some of the questions, some other questions that you might have, or maybe they're a little more complicated. And so we need to dive a little deeper. So go ahead and schedule that call, pre-ishare.com/free listing. Okay, Frank says, "Is there a cost?"
We'll take that one. So right now, as we talked about in the very, very beginning of this webinar, we're doing free listings for the early adopters who are planning on wanting to put their interests on here. So there will be a cost soon. For anybody who wants to give it a try, though, there's no cost right now. So
Hi, thanks, Cece.
free's good.
Brian, what was that, Mike?
Free's good.
Free is a good
it's
price.
great.
Good. Yeah, and then the price will be going up for sure.
We are
Okay, so
pricing right now, but if somebody wanted to do multiple shares, I believe we're at about $50 a month currently as an entry level. So if you get, your free listing and you want to have additional, talk to us and we can, get you on there.
Mm. And we're doing these calls initially just to make sure that those investors that do list, that they have the type of listing that we're looking for on the listing hub. So eventually we may not be doing these calls. And so this is a great way for you as an investor to get to know us, or even potentially if you're a sponsor watching this, and then also for us to get to know you. And so we can best tailor the listing hub for the needs of the industry. And that's what we've been doing this entire time as we've been building out the listing hub and some of our other products is it's really just been market feedback. We've had conversations with different investors and sponsors and industry experts, and they've really helped us pave the way in terms of the direction that we're going. In fact, 20 months ago, Mike, when I was brought on, things look a little bit different now than they did then. So we're definitely open to feedback and creating the best possible solutions for the marketplace that we can.
Lonnie,
Okay,
can I just
so
add one little thing next, after that last question there? I would also say in the future, even when it does become not free anymore, it's not going to be something that's going to be very expensive. We want this to grow. We've invested a great deal of money in the technology to make this happen, despite the cost of doing so. We're not going to be charging very much. Our plan is to keep it fairly inexpensive for anybody coming into this. We want to see it take off.
And I'm glad that you brought that up, Kent, because one thing also to keep in mind is as a team here at Pre-iShare, our goal is to support you along the way. So
Yeah.
not only are we have a very low cost to start listing, we also have some different options as far as having you helping you advertise it, getting your name out there as a sponsor, doing a bunch of different things. So it's one of those things that our goal is to make it as easy for you as we can, to help you take advantage of some of the services and products that we have.
okay, thanks, CC. All right. Okay, I'll move on to the next one. Ryan asked, what do I need to do with my sponsor to sell my passive interests?
Well, I can start on this. I know that Christian probably want to add to it, but we have every sponsor I've talked to, because I've been a sponsor for so long, I understand how to talk to these sponsors about this and the importance of it. Uh, Virtually every sponsor we've ever dealt with, they understand the need for it immediately. And they have specific benefits that they receive by participating in this providing liquidity to their investors. And so we would like to at least broach that subject initially with your sponsor, if that's something that you want to do. And if you would like, we can make you part of the communications, or you could do it yourself. But we certainly understand how to talk to these sponsors. And right now, as far as I could tell, I think we're at 100% participation level with every sponsor we've talked to. So I can't think of anybody that's has said no to that.
And we're making it a fairly simple process for the sponsor as well. It's we've got a standard amendment that they can add to the operating agreement. So if you've got a deal that you want to get on the listing hub, they'd have to do is adopt that as part of the operating agreement, and away you go.
Yeah. And additionally, we have Brad Jacobson. He's one of our partners in this. He's our chief legal officer, and he's been definitely guiding us along the way to make sure that we are within regulations. Additionally, we have sought outside counsel on several things to make sure that we're within regulations. So not only is it, oh, we will approach the sponsors, it's like we've had the guidance from legal counsel on how to go about doing this, just to give you that extra assurance in what we're doing. All right. So unless anyone else wants to add anything, I'm going to move on to the next question.
I think you
Very
guys
good.
covered it. I mean, I guess
Okay. And then
the sponsor does have to allow the sale, um, of those interests, but there's a lot of good reasons why they would want to.
okay. Steve asks, what types of interests can I list?
Well, anything that's a syndicated uh, purchase that you made as a limited partner or a limited liability member. So those are typical. Soon, I think we'll also be able to add private REIT interests. But right now, those two ownership forms we can definitely help you market. We'll give you an amazing amount of exposure on those types of assets because we have a lot of
Mhm.
accredited investors that we've worked with in the past that are interested in buying those, including us.
Yeah.
Just in
So
case
these
it's
interests can be oh, go ahead, Christian.
Oh, I was just gonna say, and just in case it's not clear, this is real estate only. So these are real estate interests. We don't do private equities in companies other than real estate syndications.
Mhm. And so when Mike mentioned in different assets, I mean, this could be multifamily, industrial, office, different asset classes. It's also different geographies around the US too, which is pretty awesome because we're not limited by certain geographies, by certain asset classes, by certain asset types. And so, yeah, just a little more information there.
Yep.
Okay, next question. Hopefully, I'm not missing any. We have more coming in still. Listing, oops, it just, if my listing sells for $100,000, how much do I lose in fees to pre-iShare? How much do I net?
There are no fees to pre-iShare. So we're not getting in the middle of your transaction. We're not trying to negotiate on your behalf. We're not facilitating the transaction. So there's no fees to us. If the sponsor for some reason has fees to transfer out interest, there's potentially a little bit there, but they would be minimal, I would guess. So really, you sell it for $100,000, and you got your free listing to do it. You net $100,000.
Think of it as placing a classified ad, because that's about as I think that's a pretty close comparison because we're just putting the buyer and seller in touch with each other, and they do the transaction themselves.
Yeah. So,
There might be a small additional fee if you choose to use a third party escrow, but that would be your own choosing, and we're working with a couple of escrow agencies for that. And it's a very nominal fee. It's not like you would expect with a traditional title company, because that titling process doesn't have to take place. It's just somebody that just handles the paperwork and the cash and make sure that both are completed correctly before disbursement.
Which I would just suggest it's a really smart idea to use some sort of third party escrow. And like Mike said, it's not like you're paying title insurance like in real estate where you're spending thousands of dollars. It's more just a third party that is making sure the money is in one place, the ownership is one place, and as they transfer, everybody gets what they're supposed to.
And that's going to be a very nominal fee with the people we've talked to so far. It's not, maybe $100 or something like that.
yeah. And also if they have to self-accreditate, but it's not like we don't get any of that, right? That's a third party that would verify that you're an accredited investor, and so that, I mean, that's nominal also.
And that
But
would
yeah,
be
so it's really,
the investor or the buyer
The
of that.
buyer, yeah.
yeah. So again, we're like a classifieds hub, like a listing portal. We're not a broker dealer. We're not making money off of your buying and selling interest on the listing hub. So, okay, let's see, where am I next? Susan asked, how are sponsors reacting to this idea?
So
Well,
far,
as
loving it.
Mike said, they're very interested in it. So far, we're batting 1,000 on it, aren't we, Mike?
Yeah, we've never had a sponsor say they didn't love the idea.
The only one that ever, I think I had one sponsor that I heard of that said, "I'm concerned, if we have several people selling the deal, if that's going to have a depressive effect on the deal." And the answer is no, because these are private transactions. They're not reported, so it's between you and the whatever your buyer is, and so no one won't have that. And then, Christian mentioned there's a whole bunch of upside for the sponsors anyway in wanting to do this, and that's the reason why we're batting 1,000. With 7 out of 10 accredited investors that would invest in real estate that don't do it simply because of the perception that it's illiquid when it didn't need to be. That's a really big one. And then, of course, sponsors, or like Christian talked about, we're always looking for new investors. Well, if they've got somebody that's selling out of their deal, that means they've got somebody coming in, and it didn't cost them anything but just a few minutes to get that new accredited investor coming into their deal. And there's a whole bunch of other reasons, but those are some of the big reasons. That's the reason why so many sponsors are interested in doing this as well.
Yeah,
I can tell
I'm
you
glad
two
you.
little secrets why sponsors are interested, having been a sponsor for so long. One is one Kent just alluded to, out of every 10 investors that we talk to, statistically, 7 of those would not do real estate, even though they knew that it was a better investment. They wouldn't do it because it was illiquid. Sponsors know that if they can provide liquidity and it's something that they can advertise to their investors or would-be investors, they know that they're going to get a higher ratio. We predict that it'd be about 20 to 30% more, and that's a game changer for them because doing raises is a difficult and arduous process. The second thing is, and here's another little secret that you should probably know as an investor, it takes about $2,000 to $3,000 of our time and effort to cultivate an interest, a level of interest from each sponsor that we bring on. So onboarding a new investor is a very expensive process for us. And so if somebody gets slotted in based on their existing performance of their asset and they like what they see, invest because of that, that brings that cost of being introduced to a new investor down to zero. And so that's another reason it's very attractive. There's a myriad of others, but those are the two big ones.
Hey, thanks for answering that, Mike. All right. So Dean asks, what is the process for listing our shares and then making the exchange? Maybe I missed that already in the presentation.
So it's as simple as, again, just go to the website. So preishare.com/free listing. And you're going to set up a call with Cece. She's going to walk through the process, get your listing lives. And then at that point, as offers start coming in, you're going to be introduced to those potential buyers. You can start negotiating from there. And then we did suggest in a previous question, if you didn't hear it, utilizing potentially a third-party escrow company. And so you can find those. There's a lot of them out there, or we are in talks with a couple right now that we would potentially be able to suggest to you.
Okay. Thanks, Christian. All right, let's hop over here. Let's see. Some of these have already been answered. So what do I need to? Okay. Let's see how is the process. Okay, actually, they trying to see where some more are.
If I can see
I
any.
feel like I've answered most of these except Gunner. Is
I
your
see
fund
one.
by
Yeah,
what was is it from Gunner?
from Gunner. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was going to read. Is your fund, so we also have a fund, just going to buy all the good investments and only leave the leftovers for the rest of us?
Gunner, I love the way you think, and I wish I could say yes, but we're in the free market as well, and so everybody has the opportunity to make offers on every deal. And there's going to be, with our fund, and Kent can probably speak more to this. There's going to be some asset classes that we focus more on, and some that we probably shy away from. And so we know in the open market that everybody has different buying criteria. The fund is going to have its specific buying criteria as well. And so I'm sure there's still going to be some good deals left over.
Yeah, we're the fund is not interested in every type of asset or every market. One of the things that Mike and I, in the work that we've done over the decades, is with econometric modeling, is we've come up with a pretty tight selection of criteria that we are looking at in deals. So no, we're not going to be interested in buying everything. Of course, I would like to get a number of good deals, but our hope is this is a huge market. Our hope is that the word of mouth will travel very quickly, and that the secondary market will create all kinds of deals for a lot of investors. There's plenty of opportunity out there, and so I feel like there's going to be abundant opportunity for everybody, including us.
Yeah, I think on every deal that's out there that makes sense, it's got a good track record and it's got decent cash flow. The pre-iShare fund itself would probably be bidding at any one time against maybe as many as 200-300 other investors, and it's being exposed to maybe 2,000 to 3,000 investors. So it's going to be a highly competitive market, and so we'll have to, in order to win that bidding process, we're going to have to be competitive ourselves.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and Gunnar, just like any real estate, you're going to have inside knowledge on some of these that we don't have, and you know, you'll find your niche if you're the one that's wanting to get in there and buy good deals. I'm sure you'll find your niche.
And other buyers will see them at the same time that we will see them.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's a great
The
question.
Yeah, thank you for that question.
the great part about the listing hub is that you're buying based off of performance, not on performa. So that's something that really isn't done in the marketplace, and that's a great part about the listing hub. So okay, Dave, can you sell a private REIT interest?
Yeah, we haven't gotten to that yet, but we are in the process of going through all of the legalities of getting to that. I've got quite a bit of private REIT interest, and so I'm anxious to get that going. But there's just a few more legal steps that we've got to take before we can do it. But I suspect by second quarter of next year that we will have a marketplace established for the private REITs.
Yeah. We have we have a lot of things that we're also working on with the listing hub. I don't, Mike, did you want to say anything about what we're going to be offering for sponsors? That we're still a little ways out on that, but you know, we're having the conversations right now, or do we want to leave that for a later date?
Let's just leave that as a teaser for right now.
Okay, we'll do that. We have some other really great things coming with the listing hub, and it's been a long process so far, and CC has spearheaded that. So thanks, CC, for doing that. Okay, so some of these I may actually no, I didn't ask this one yet. John asked, how would I price my investment?
The best thing is not to price it unless you. It'd be nice if you had a price in your mind that you wanted for it, but everybody's going to be just. I know we will be, and I assume most other investors. And if I wanted to invest privately, I would just price on the cash flow. So I would just say, you know, this is a yield that I require, and I would, because really what I'm buying is cash flow. And so most investors are just going to look at it that way. And so they'll just price it based on its cash flow. So just present it, and then I would see where the market takes it.
I think that becomes also one of the most attractive features. In addition to the sellers having an opportunity to sell their investments, the buyers was great for them. And this is, you know, as a buyer myself with the fund, you're going to get an opportunity to look at deals that have an actual track record as opposed to the pro forma that you usually get when you buy these things initially. Becomes incredibly attractive. It allows you to have a very valuable piece of information that you really want to have to value the investment. You don't get that opportunity when you're buying pro forma, but you do get that when you're buying through our listing hub.
And
And
I'm not sure if you are a seller or a buyer, but I'm getting this a lot from people that are asking about selling their interests, of how do they price it. And that's the good news is, you know, normally if you were selling it back to your sponsor, you kind of would be limited to being able to price it based on what you bought in at or possibly less. And so this, you can base it off of your own needs. So you can put it up there and just let people come to you, or if you're in a real tight spot and you know that this is a good deal, but you just need out of it, you can price really aggressively and potentially sell it faster. Or if this is something where you're just kind of you like the deal, but you'd be willing to take cash if you could get enough of it, you could also price it higher than maybe what you think it's worth. And if somebody comes in and buys it, then you get your money's worth. We're not going to control pricing at all, and that's the beautiful part about it, is you can come in here and price your investment based on not only the deal itself, but also your needs.
Hi. Steve asked, what do I need to do with my sponsor to sell my passive interest? So we already answered one similar to this. Mike, did you want to repeat what you said?
yeah, I can give a little
Sure.
bit more light on that. Practically every operating agreement I've ever seen in my entire life, and everyone we ever put out, has exactly the same clause. It's like the attorneys just plagiarize each other to death, I think. But it basically the standard clause says that you have to offer it first to the sponsor, and if the sponsor can't buy it back, which most sponsors, uh, if they have the cash and the need is acute, they might be able to do that for you, but most of them, that's a difficult challenge. The next option then would be to take it to the other members of that, LLC or, LP, and, if that doesn't happen, then, you're free to go and sell it yourself. The best approach for us right now is that we, approach the sponsor in your behalf. And like I said, we've got a 100% track record with that, with success with that, and just explain, how to modify that clause, which then would allow you to make that sale. And, uh, and we can actually handle that part of it for you. If not, if you want to do it yourself, we can certainly give you the information that they need to have in order to do that. But like I said, most sponsors are pretty willing to let you out, and most sponsors that I've talked to are reticent of making an offer on their own offerings, their own syndicated off properties, because they don't know how to price them. And because there is no competitive market pricing, there is a substantial conflict of interest. And so a lot of them that we've talked to have welcomed this opportunity to get competitive market pricing and valuations on their own assets. So again, it's something we're willing to broach that subject for you. And if not, we can certainly provide you with the information you need to do it yourself.
Another thing we're going to be doing to make this easier in the future for investors, most sponsors that put out these deals have an investor dashboard for each one of their deals. And our hope is that we can actually put the feature right in the investor dashboard where they could actually say, okay, I want to look at maybe selling my deal, and put the sell button or whatever it's going to look like. But we're working with a lot of the providers of those dashboards to get that out to the sponsors and simplify the process. And one of the things, of course, that Cece's excited about is it's going to also help transfer the information that investors would need to use to list the deal out on our website. It would be pretty much a seamless process eventually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing too is I tell you, if you're dealing with one of our approved sponsors and we're adding to our approved sponsor list at about 2 or 3 a month, and that's ramping up rapidly. They've already agreed to um, uh, the liquidity clause in the operating agreement. So if you find your sponsor on our approved sponsor list, then you're already taken care of.
Hi. All right. Micah asked, how do I buy from the listing hub? Is that a different webinar?
No, we can talk about that now. And in fact, I'm going to use this to answer one of my own questions. Is I believe, CC, correct me if I'm wrong, if somebody goes and registers on the listing hub as a buyer, that they will get notifications, hopefully, as listings become live. Is that a thing?
Ooh, not yet, but that's a really great idea.
Okay. Feet to the fire.
Yep, that's right. But no, I actually
To get
also
back to
kind of
Gunner's question, you're going to get that message the same time I do.
right, right. When we're there. No, that's a great idea. I'm gonna kind of tackle this one a little bit too. How do you buy? When you actually log in, because you don't actually have to have a listing to sign up and be on the listing hub. Um, but when you actually log in, you'll see the listings and you'll be able to participate in looking at those and reaching out to the whoever listed the listing on there, to go back and forth and start to have that conversation directly with the whoever's listing their interest. So that's totally up to you. And like we've already said a little bit throughout the webinar, we're not going to be part of that process. So that'll be a private matter that you can handle back and forth with the lister. So hopefully that answered your question, Micah. Great question. Thank you.
Well, and I happened to, me and Mike happened to go to lunch with the first person to get an official listing on there, and so there is a listing on there right now. It's a development transaction. If you understand development and want to get in on the upside of that, you may want to pop over there and take a look.
Thank you.
Okay, I think that might be all the questions. Let me just double check the chat. Stuart, how can I have this added to my investor dashboard? Kent kind of answered that a little bit. Kent, did you have anything else to say there?
No, but maybe you could talk to your sponsor about getting that added to your dashboard too. We're working on it from the side that I mentioned, but if you want to ask your sponsor about doing it and get them in touch with us so we can figure out how to get that done for them, that would be great.
And
I do want to just a quick little thing. We've got a couple of providers that we're already in conversations with to make those things happen. But we would love to hear if there's a specific one that you use that you love to use. We'd love to hear that what the technology is that you're currently using, so that we can, if we're not already working with them, we can start having those conversations with those different portal developers. Get those things into the pipeline sooner than later. So would love to hear that from you, Stuart.
Yeah, and typically that's going to be on the back end. So you want to bring it up to your sponsor, but have them bring it up with whoever their portal provider is. So depending on how you log in, you might see behind it Syndication Pro or Agora or a company on there. So look who that is. And the other thing you could do is bring it up directly with them. I named a couple that we're already in conversation with, but even them, I think the more they hear it from you as a user and investor, the more likely it can happen faster.
And I would suggest, it kind of made me think of it too, get the word out about this. The more activity we get out here, the better this is going to be for everybody involved in the industry, for the buyers and sellers and everybody. This is something that really needed to happen a long time ago, and we feel like it is going to change industry, and all of it is good for everybody, for the investors, for the buyers, for the sponsors. No matter which direction you're looking at it, it's good for everybody. And so get the word out to, if you're a part of an investment group or others that you know, to your sponsors. Please help us get that word out, because we need to get that going.
Yeah, this is definitely something that's needed in the marketplace, and that's part of our what we're facing right now on the marketing side of things. Is this hasn't been done before in the industry, so it's educating the marketplace, the industry, that this solution exists, that it exists. And so if you or anyone you know that is a passive real estate investor could use this service, we would love to have a conversation with you. Again, you can schedule a call with us at preishare.com/free listing. I also put it down there in the chat function of Zoom. And Christian, is there anything else that we wanted to tell everyone?
You
Well,
can
yeah.
share it on your social media too. You want to put a plug in on our Facebook or anything like that, Kalani?
We're all over social media. We're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we're on YouTube. In fact, if you want to see some of our episodes from the Fundication show, you can search for us on YouTube, and you can see our studio that's in Murray, Utah, and different sponsors and real estate experts that we interview. So go ahead and check us out on social media, and yeah, give us a tag, and we'd love that.
And
Hey, Christian.
before we put it out there, because you just brought up a good idea about the groups, investment groups that are out there. So I'm going to throw this out there. If you are a part of an investment club that specifically they get together and they analyze real estate syndication, so you have the audience of people who would have these shares, and you can be the person to kind of make the connection for us, where we can offer free listings to those within the group. We can create some sort of reward for you. So we definitely want those type of introductions right now. And I mean, the reward might just be that we fly you here to Utah and have lunch with you. But we'll make sure we get something, gift certificate. We'll make it worth your while to make that introduction, because it's really a benefit to you as the investor, but it's a benefit to everybody involved if you make those connections for us.
And we really do need the help to get this thing started. We really need the word of mouth out there. It's critical for us. This is going to be a great benefit for everybody, but only if it takes off. And we're doing everything we can, and we'd love you have your help if there's any ideas or way you can get that message out.
Okay. All right. I think that's it for the evening. Thanks for spending your precious time tonight, joining us here, watching this live webinar with our leadership team. And again, if you want to hop on a call with us or claim your free listing, go to preishare.com/free listing. And until next time.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.